your support, the support you have been giving to the community of Sant'Egidio. And I would like to ask the President of the Commission on Human Rights of the Italian Chamber of Deputies, Mario Marazziti, whom we all know. He is one of the really people who has been engaged in this battle for the longest time, supporting the community of Sant'Egidio and the World Coalition Against Death Penalty, and he's one of the animators of that group, has been quite effective. So I would like to give you the floor at this point. Thank you. Well, he was saying he used the masculine synonym, one of the men who is engaged the most, but there are many women out there who are as active as I am, and I would like to pay tribute to them. I wanted to share with you a very simple, basically, reflection. Why are we here? Whenever a heinous crime is being perpetrated, and someone decides to then basically live outside of the community, so the death penalty is necessary. This was repeated for thousands of years, but it was not true back then, and it's not true now. The death penalty has always been part of mankind, and it was found in all civilizations, and including the West. Slavery, too, and torture have been common practice for centuries or millennia. And people used to think that these are natural occurrences in human society. They're part of economic development, and it's basically what the winners are entitled to impose upon the vanquished. But luckily enough, slavery and torture nowadays are banned by law, although there are 300,000 then children who then fight in wars as soldiers. There are dozens of millions of adults and children who are slaves. 50 million every year, 50 million children and adults who do not exist, basically. And they must be added to the same number in the previous year, because they were never, actually, their birth was never recorded. These are the invisible children, for which the community of Sant'Egidio has launched a Bravo program, which is the most effective program to then basically register these newborn babies in the registers of births, deaths, and marriages right from the very beginning, to eliminate the mother of all abuses, what leads to the death of people when people are still alive. And I would like to mention this fact because the battle against the death penalty is part of one single battle, a battle for the dignity of human life. We heard this from our sister from Afghanistan, from all those who have been speaking this morning. This is in the deepest heart of all of us here. It's part of the same battle in order to free society from the illusion that when you take away a human life, then a problem might seem to be solved. But this is just an illusion, because, as a matter of fact, this is something that humiliates the entire society, a society that's guilty of that killing. And this has become clear in very prominent cases. The horrible footage, the laughter during Saddam Hussein's hanging. And then there was a wave of rage. People were enraged, and for the first time at the UN General Assembly, the resolution for universal moratorium was introduced. And I'm thinking about the awful killing, the terrible footage of the killing, of Muhammad Gaddafi. Revenge, the disproportion of violence, whatever happened before, whatever kind of life the human being had led was manifest, was clear. That was just a form of revenge. That's all it was. Language can cover anything. In Italy, too, people do not say to kill, but to execute. and in Italian we say giustiziare. You can see the root of the word justice there. But when the state kills, we say to execute. In English also, it's something. In Italian it sounds like eseguire. You basically obey. You execute somebody's orders. You obey an order, pretty much. Or it might also mean like completing a task with a neutral language that might apply to students' homework or a math problem to be solved. We are here for a great battle of civilization, for justice with a human face, but it's always also a great cultural battle. It is a battle that then shows us the quality of our leaders. We have here justice ministers and men and women who are government officials. It makes a difference to be here. Sometimes politics is considered as a fellowship. You just have to chase after public opinion, chase after the instincts of the population in order to garner political support. And then there's the difference between this and when politics is leadership, not fellowship, when it's able to build consensus through bold and right choices that then bring the majority of the population, also through difficulties, towards what is useful to everyone, towards the common good, without leaving the majority of the population alone to fall prey to its instincts. Population is guided out of the Red Sea, as we were referring to the Bible with Moses, or Winston Churchill during World War II, or Martin Luther King in his battle for civil rights, or Mahatma Gandhi, or Nelson Mandela. The death penalty does not make our society any safer. It is always an unproportionate blow to minorities or the weaker segments of our society. It can never also give life back to the victims. It can never give happiness back to the victims' families. And society is not made any safer. There are areas in the world, or large cities, where our safety is not guaranteed. There's widespread violence. There are the wounds coming from war and civil war that in a whole generation of children have dug deep into. A whole generation of children. Think about El Salvador. And these children then migrated to the United States. But then that wound has turned into gang-based violence. And then it was brought back to Central America. And this is what we were listening to when the Maras were mentioned, and the widespread violence that takes place in countries like El Salvador, which is trying to find a way out of this widespread violence. But the death penalty is never a deterrent for these young men and women, because death is part of their initiation ritual, is part of the game. In the West, we talk about retributive justice. It doesn't matter whether it has a practical usefulness, but you have to fight back. If someone hits you, you have to hit people back. So it's retribution. But we cannot turn into murderers ourselves. It's the only response of an advanced society to violence. We should never be like them. And I'm saying this with the experience of the community of Sant'Egidio that has sat down to the table and bringing to an end civil wars and fights and internecine warfare. Rwanda was able to overcome fear and violence also through the abolition of the death penalty, and we will hear about this later on. Europe, after 2 world wars, now was able to become unified, and in its constitution it has included the rejection of capital punishment. Italy, once again in Europe, has decided to turn this battle into a pivot of its humanitarian diplomacy. At the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Italian Chamber of Deputies, we have adopted a resolution on a consensus basis in a country like Italy, where we're not really that united, but we have adopted a resolution against the death penalty by which the Italian government is committed to be more proactive, to promote the establishment of regional coalitions, to support the grassroots movements for human rights, to support the implementation of UN resolution that was passed by the UN General Assembly for a universal moratorium, but also to favor the establishment of parliaments and support MPs against the death penalty, to set up a broad international network. This is why, on behalf of the group of Italian senators and MPs supporting this, it's 160 people, please help us to establish a movement of senators and members of parliament or congress people in each of your countries so that they can become part of this international movement of members of parliament against the death penalty, because we will be working by your side, with you. And now, in conclusion, I would like to reply to the question, why are we here? No country in the world finds in the death penalty one of its basic identity traits. It's important to state this, because it is never true that the death penalty is truly part of a specific country's culture. For instance, when in Europe, death penalty was customary, right, in the Middle Ages, but also in the 1600s, in the 1700s, and now we do not even know where this frontier is located. If you go to Aachen, this used to be the capital city of Charlemagne's empire, Aachen, in Germany. It is at the crossroads between three borders, and in Italy, the 100 Years' War took place there, and also the 30 Years' War, but then also World War I, but also World War II. And we do not really know where the border is located. And back in the day, in the Middle Ages, when the death penalty was customary, in Japan, where now they have the death penalty, where families are not even being told when the execution takes place, and the convicts too are not even informed. And this is difficult for us to accept. Well, for 3 centuries, Japan abolished capital punishment, when in the rest of the world it was a common practice. It is never true that it is part of a culture of a specific people. Every country cherishes its history and its identity. Each one of us might be tempted to think that what I have listened from my Italian friends, Spanish friends, good friends from Costa Rica, well, this cannot apply to my country. But I'm telling you this right now, no country has the death penalty as part of this cultural identity, and together we can abolish this. So when in September, together with the Italian delegation, I was in New York City at the UN General Assembly, the opening plenary assembly, we met with the delegation from Pakistan. There are 7,000 people in death row in Pakistan. And there is a de facto moratorium. But there is a very lively debate, because some people want to call for the reinstatement of executions. And so we asked them, said, make a public gesture, show and confirm that your government, which is a government that was elected in a different way compared to previous government, so that your government makes a step forward towards life. And just a few weeks ago, they publicly proclaimed that the moratorium will continue. And I would like to give a big hand to Pakistan, really. So I believe that the death penalty is a travesty of justice. It gives the idea, let's say, of power of precision. It reassures the world, pretending that it's easy to tell what is right and what is wrong. But this is not the case. It does not help the victims of injustice. It does not heal pain. It compounds injustice with more injustice. So hence the meaning of this summit. Synergy between states, countries in mutual respect. Synergy between civil society and governments. Friendship, respect. But also a step forward for a great moral and cultural rebellion that is absolutely indispensable to help each and every one of us to be stronger, to enjoy greater leadership, to help the world and our people to become better. Thank you all.
Grazie Mario Marazziti.